Hello! Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching from. I know Richard messaged me. Richard's watching all the way from the UK. I think it's 5 p.m. his time over there. Tyler, what's going on, my man? Thank you so much for tuning in, checking out the live stream today. And of course, Farai, we've got Farai on as well. Thank you, and welcome to today's Q&A live stream. I've got a special jam-packed, ready-to-go presentation for you all. This is completely live, so whether you're watching on the YouTube channel, whether you're watching on one of the Facebook groups, you can ask questions, and I will see some of them pop up on screen here. I'll do my best to answer them as I go. For those of you that I might miss in the Facebook groups, because there's kind of a weird integration thing going on right now with how you stream to them at the same time as YouTube, the best place to ask questions is on the YouTube channel. So if you're watching this right now and you have questions or you think you might have questions that pop up, head on over to YouTube. Just type in my name. It's Zephan Moses. It'll be the first channel that comes up. There's no one else with the same name as me. And you can ask your questions in the YouTube channel. That's the easiest place for me to be able to actually bring those up on screen as graphics and answer those questions live as we go along. So today I've got a presentation for you. But first, before I get into that, you may see me look down here. This is my presentation computer. I thought that it was important to talk about what's special about this week in the live streaming world and as far as equipment goes for live streaming. So I'm going to bring a page up for you here. This is just from Blackmagic's website. So right now in Las Vegas is NAB. It's the National Association of Broadcasters. And if you're watching this and you haven't seen NAB before, I highly, highly recommend going because this is where all the new gear gets announced. This is where the Blackmagic switchers just got announced actually over the weekend. I think because they scheduled it out in Australian time, it was at like 3 o'clock in the morning East Coast time. But there's new gear that's come in from Blackmagic, and I just wanted to talk briefly on that before we get into the presentation. But today is going to be all about making sure that you're making more money and keeping more of that money in your video production business. So whether you're live streaming or whether you're just a videographer, it doesn't matter the service that you're offering. Today's training is going to be all about how to manage your money better in your business. So let me talk about this gear and then we'll dive right in. But as you go along, if you've got questions, then pop them up in the chat there on the YouTube channel and I will do my best to bring them up. So let's go over to the gear side. So as of this past week, Blackmagic has announced new ATEM Constellation HD switchers. There's 3 different models of these switchers. There's some other gear they've announced as well. There was an update to DaVinci Resolve number 18. And then there's also a new HyperDeck Shuttle HD, and then Blackmagic's new cloud storage solution. But what I want to jump into real fast is just the HyperDeck as well as the new Constellation HD. So the Constellation HD is a brand new switcher from Blackmagic. They've had a Constellation that's been out, but now they're making HD versions to accommodate many of the live streamers that are now using HD. And so there's 3 different powerful models. The first one being kind of that 2/3 rack mount. The second one being the 2ME model, that's a full rack mount. And then of course their big mammoth, that's the 4ME Constellation HD. And that one I believe is a full width rack mount, but it's going to take up 2 rack units tall. So there's a lot of new equipment coming out from Blackmagic here, definitely some things to keep your eyes on. And these new switchers are all SDI based. So for those of you that are just getting into the live streaming world, this might be your next step up in live streaming. If you're graduating from HDMI and you're having trouble with the fact that HDMI cable runs aren't really useful beyond 25 feet, or you're trying to figure out how to make it work with Cat5 to HDMI extenders or anything like that, SDI is going to be kind of your next level up that you want to consider graduating to once you get to that point. And that's also a really nice lock-in connector. It's more professional of a standard that's used in many broadcast environments. So I'm not going to dive too far deep down the rabbit hole into that equipment, but I'll also just note here the other piece of gear that was launched and is being shown off at NAB this year is the brand new HyperDeck Shuttle HD. This is a video playback and video recording unit that's made to go with the A10 Mini Pro series, so the A10 Mini Pro, A10 Mini Extremes, and this can play out video over HDMI as well as record video straight to an SD card using HDMI as well. And this was made to go with the A10 Mini Pros, but realistically you could use it with any of Blackmagic's devices that support HDMI. One small but kind of odd feature that they packed into this is the fact that it's also a teleprompter. So you can actually use the jog wheel with a built-in teleprompter feature to display teleprompters. So that is my gear update. Again, as I promised you, I didn't want to spend too much time on that at all. So as you have questions and as we go along in my actual presentation here, feel free to pop them into the YouTube chat and we'll take it from there. But today's presentation, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up here on screen. This is what happens when you're doing this all on your own. You've got to switch everything. You've got to monitor the comments. You've got to run the slides. This presentation today is all about three key things. One, it's going to be the one strategy that I use to pay myself more. Two, it's going to be a free system to manage your income. And then three, 6-figure secrets, how to keep more of your earnings. So let me know in the chat, in the comments on YouTube, what do you think? Is that something that you would like to learn today? Just let me know. And I'm going to go ahead and get this presentation set up here real fast. Going to tweak some settings on my side. And just let me know in the comments if this sounds like something that you're excited for and that you're ready to check out. And let's get a move on with this. All right, you ready? Okay, let's dive in. So the one strategy that I use to pay myself more, this is going to be the first topic that I wanted to go over today. We'll go over the remaining ones in just a moment, but let's go right into this. So the one strategy that I use came from a book named Profit First. The author's name is Mike Michalowicz. I've also had the chance, I've been fortunate to meet him a while back. And Mike's a great guy. He's a very, very savvy business owner. And this is something that I wanted to feature in this training today because I think that this is something that's going to transform the way that your business is operating, not only to get more money into your pockets, but also this is something that I think is going to help you run a more efficient business. So Mike says the old, been around forever, profitless formula is sales minus expenses equals profit. And the new profit first formula is sales minus profit equals expenses. The math in both formulas is the same. Logically, nothing has changed, but profit first speaks to human behavior. It accounts for the regular Joes of the world like me. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what that actually means for you and your business, what it means for me and my business. You see, when I first started, I created an LLC, I made my business bank account, and I said, okay, I've got a business, right? And then what would happen is people would hire me and they would pay me in a check or credit card payment. However I took payment, I got my payment in. And I said, okay, let's just use, for numbers' sake, let's use $10,000. Let's say this month I made $10,000. And well, maybe I spent, let's say, $2,500 of it. I had to buy maybe a new laptop and $500 between gas and a few other business expenses. So there's now $7,500 left in that account. Now I could go into that account and say, what do I want to pay myself this month? Well, I've got $7,500 in there. The savvy person would say, well, I can't pay myself all of that. I need to keep some for savings. I need to divvy it up in my various accounts. Some of it is going to have to go towards taxes. But the inexperienced business owner is going to say, there's $7,500 in here. Payday, let's go, right? That's what's going to happen is people are going to just look at that number and say, I'll just pay myself whatever I want. And that's something that is a really easy trap to fall into as a business owner, as a single member LLC, because you don't really have a whole lot of overhead just yet. You're just getting started. You want to make money, so you want to pocket a lot of it. The problem is it's not making you a very savvy business owner, because then when other expenses and things pop up, you haven't taken the time to set out those different buckets to say, okay, taxes needs to be X amount of dollars. My operating expenses like rent for my studio or gas or business insurance because I make a monthly payment on that, or car insurance, all of these things, you're not taking those into account. And so what's happening is you're taking out typically more money than you can chew. And then you're left with scrambling around trying to figure out how to pay off certain expenses, or you think you can buy more gear than you actually could that month because you didn't really have any percentages or numbers or reference to go off of. So this is to solve that problem and to create a more efficient business for you financially. And I'm going to show you exactly how this works today. And actually in a little bit, we're going to give you a free tool. It's actually the same Excel sheet that I use to fill out, and I track it every single month. And this is how I determine what goes into each bucket. Does that sound good? So I noticed Mike said here, just got called into a meeting, hoping this will be available to watch later. Yes, this will be saved on the YouTube account, so just make sure you hit that little like and subscribe button on the account. Yes, I know, shameless plug. Hit like if you like the video. Helps me out big time, and this is all free training. I'm not getting anything for this, okay? Mike, we will have this recorded. It will be saved on YouTube. You can always refer back to this later. But, of course, if you're live, that's when you can ask the questions to me live right now, because I see them pop up. Cool? Okay, so let's talk about what this looks like from a bird's eye view. I'm going to put the slide up on screen. This training, I'm probably going to have myself covered up a little bit more often just because I'm showing you a lot of these pieces of information about how this works. So this is kind of bare bones how this functions. The idea is that you have two different banks. Now, bank one has 4 different accounts. There's profit, owner pay, taxes, and expenses. And these percentages, this is just how I've divvied it up in the past. This is not necessarily to say that you should be splitting it up the same way, because your taxes are going to be different and your expenses are going to be different. So these percentages, we'll talk about it in a minute, these have some wiggle room. And then bank 2 is where you're going to hold the profit and where you're going to hold the tax money. And this way, this is a separate account that you're basically not going to touch except for a couple times a year. So the idea is that you're pulling out this additional owner's profit, which we'll talk about in a moment. This is basically what you can pay yourself as a bonus, or if you have debts to pay off, this is typically used first to pay off some of those debts. And then you have a tax account. So the money is being split off to taxes. You're not even seeing it. It's gone, it's hidden, you're not going to touch it for the rest of the year, or at least till the end of the quarter when you need to pay your taxes. So this is a bare minimum. If you want to even screenshot this, if you're watching from home, I highly, highly recommend screenshot this slide while I have it on screen. I'm going to give you the tool that breaks this all down for you in just a little bit. You're not going to have to do anything for it. It's going to be a direct link. You're going to be able to download it. But just screenshot this if this is something that you feel you should be incorporating in your business. And then also comment down below. Let me know, does this seem like something that makes sense? The idea is that we're splitting 4 buckets. First one being profit, second one being owner's pay, third one being taxes, and then fourth one being expenses. Let me know if that makes sense, just splitting those 4 directions. You can let me know in the comments. So let's go ahead and keep on rolling through. I want to talk a little bit more about this. So the idea is that you're going to take profit first and split the balance into small accounts. With less cash, you'll be forced to find innovative ways to achieve more with less. Once you've taken your profit, keep it out of sight, out of mind, and hard to access, except for the right reasons. Okay, and the right reasons are probably few and far between. But this is something that you're typically going to keep off to the side, out of sight, out of mind. Now, you're always going to take profits first and pay your bills last. I know this sounds counterintuitive, and we'll talk about it in a minute. You'll take profits first and pay your bills last, so you only spend what you can actually afford. And then you'll log in daily. Daily or weekly. For me, it's typically just weekly. check your balances, and manage your allocations and payables twice a month. So really all I'm doing for stuff like this is I'm usually logging in twice a month. I'm logging in at the 1st and the 15th, or the 15th and the 30th, and I'm looking at the prior 2 weeks, and that's where I'm splitting and divvying up the money into the different buckets. Does that make sense? Let me know down in the comments here. Sam says, taxes for my area are only 7.5% though. So yes, it doesn't work for everyone. Yes. So Sam, again, here, these numbers, these percentages are not for everybody. These were just numbers that were put forth by the book, and they highly encourage you to meet with your accountant, meet with your tax professional, figure out the percentage that's going to make sense for you. For me, 15% has worked pretty well, because after you consider the expenses that I'm writing off, that gets me pretty darn close, even though tax-wise, I think I'm getting taxed like 20-something%. But at the end of the day, that 7.5%, that's something that you can adjust for you. It also could mean that maybe you're pulling out 15%, but that additional money that's left over waiting in that account, you can use to pay your accountant at the end of the year. You can use for additional, finances or things, like maybe you have some payment processing expenses from taking credit cards, or maybe you want to hire a financial advisor or something like that. At the end of the day, that money was still belonging to the business, but it's just allowing you that little bit extra that you can ultimately decide at the end of the year to put towards something else. So I just want to be clear for everyone watching. These percentages that I showed back here, I'll bring up this slide again. These percentages are not, hey, this is exactly how you have to do it, because my percentages are not exact like this, okay? This is something that you'll modify as you get going and as you realize what makes the most sense for you. So I want to reveal to you the table structure, the Excel sheet, if you will, that I'm using to make this happen. And this is where I'm going to give you a download link. It's a link to a Google Drive doc. So I'm going to say now, I'm going to preface this. To download this, you have to make a copy for yourself. This link is only going to take you to a viewer-only version of the document. If you start emailing me and messaging me and requesting permission to edit this document, you will be requesting to edit the raw document that everyone else is using, and nobody else wants to see your financials, okay? Maybe they do, but besides the point. You have to make sure that you download this file, download a copy or make a copy of this file. Do not request permission to edit this file. You ready? I'm going to give you access to this. So here's the link on the bottom of the screen. It's a bit.ly link, and I'm also going to post this link in the YouTube chat. So if you're watching on YouTube, you get the benefit of just clicking this link directly. And it's just bit.ly/301 C as in Charlie, B as in boy, D as in David, L as in Lisa. Okay, if you have trouble with that, let me know in the comments. We'll get that fixed for you, but I just checked this link earlier. This link is working. And if you click that link, I put it in the chat window on the YouTube Live, you can download this. So let's talk about this table and what it's doing. So on the left-hand side, you can see this table has all 12 months in the year. So January through December. And this was something that I made sure to incorporate in January, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't start it right now. Here we are in April at the time of recording this. This is something that you could be putting into play right now, starting next week, because it'll be a new month. So you've got each month, and what you're doing is you're going in and tracking your total income from the 1st to the 15th, and then from the 16th to the 31st. Now, of course, if it's a month that's less than 31 days, then of course it's something that is going to be adjusted based on the month. Now, Brandon, I saw you mentioned on Facebook that you could not get to the link. You might have missed the S. It needs to be an HTTPS, or just simply click the link on the YouTube Live, and we'll make sure that we get that to you. And if anyone else has it and it's working just fine, just post that down in the comments for him so that he can grab that real quick. Let me see if I can maybe even jump in here on the Facebook while we're live, just so I can get this going for you. we'll get that link up. Let's see. I'm going to paste it right here under your comment, Brandon. And then anyone else watching that's having trouble on Facebook can also grab it there too. All right, so jumping back into this Excel sheet here, you've got your months on the left. You have two total income columns, the 1st through the 15th, and then your second total income from the 16th to the 31st. So what you're going to go in and do is, let's just say the month is April, right? So if the month is April, I'm going to go from the 1st to the 15th, typically on the night of the 15th or maybe on the 16th or 17th, and I'm going to say how much money has hit the business bank account from every paycheck that's come in, from every project that has been paid or a deposit that has come in, every single dollar that has come into the business account from the 1st to the 15th, and we're going to pop that number right into that yellow column. And then what's going to happen is the Excel sheet is automatically set to calculate based on the percentages listed above. So profit being 10%, owner pay 40%, tax 15%, operating expense 35%. Now, if you're going in and changing those percentages, you'll just have to adjust the math in the cells, and I'll show that later on. But it's very, very simple to adjust these Excel sheets and just change those percentages. You just click on the cell and you'll see it's just taking that total income and multiplying it by the percentage. And then let's say the 31st of the month comes and goes. It's now the 1st of the next month. Okay, now it's time to fill in the total income from the 16th to the 31st. So you figure out your number, whatever it is. You go to your business bank account and you say, okay, here's how much I made this month, just all the money coming in, and you pop it into total income from the 16th to the 31st. And again, it's going to do those calculations for you, and it'll say, here's how much needs to go in the profit account. Here's how much goes in the owner pay account, in the tax account, in the operating expense account. Now, the beauty of this is on a quarterly basis, you'll see on the very far right, there's some yellow boxes. On a quarterly basis, this is going to calculate a percentage of what you've put into the profit bucket, and it's going to say, hey, if you'd like to, you can pay yourself a bonus. The way I had this set up was taking 75% of my 10% profit that I set aside. So it's saying, okay, after Q1, so after January, February, March, it's taking all of that profit, adding it together, and then for me, it was taking 75% of that number, and it was saying, hey, you can pay yourself a quarterly distribution. So now you're graduating to a business payment system where not only are you getting paid on a monthly basis, technically it's every 2 weeks, but you're now also giving yourself bonuses on a quarterly basis. So if you've got that expensive thing that you wanted to buy for yourself, if you need to, go buy a car, if you need to buy a new computer, this is money that is paid to you, not to the business. So you could really spend this on anything that you want. And that's the beauty of paying yourself this quarterly distribution. Now, zooming out just a little bit, you'll all see this when you've downloaded the template. Again, that link is right on the bottom of the screen, and just to bring your attention to it, I will pop it up here as well so you can see that a little bit better. It's that purple box in the bottom corner. So as you zoom out on the Excel sheet, you're going to find a couple of things. On the far right, what I recommend is make notes of which bank account each of these is assigned to. So which bank account is your profit account? Which bank account is your owner pay? Which bank account is your taxes, and which is your operating expenses? Now, for security purposes, you don't need to put your whole bank routing number or anything like that, but I would say is maybe just the last 4 digits and the name of the bank that you are putting your money into. And then I've got some important notes down here that help you determine how this sheet should be used. So for starters, it says that quarterly distributions go towards paying off old debt first, and then if there's left over, that's used to pay yourself. And this is great because it helps you get rid of that debt quicker. Now it also says that income is calculated on the 15th and 31st of the month from your main operating bank account. Then distributions are made to the profit, owner pay, tax, and operating expense account. This is something that we've covered a couple times here already. And then percentages can be adjusted. So if you have trouble putting 10% into that profit bucket, start lower. Start with 1%. Put the remaining 9% into operating expenses if you need to. And then gradually increase over time until you can get yourself to 10%. And then it mentions that quarterly distributions are made out of the profit account to pay yourself a reward. These should be a percentage of the profit account, not the full 100%. I typically recommend about 75% just to make sure that you keep a little extra buffer in there, because again, this is still money that the business has received. So although you're putting it in the profit account, you never know if you had an expense come up that you didn't have the money for, but maybe you had an extra $1,000 in that profit account. Again, this can be used to go to pay debt first and then bonus yourself. So you can see I put in just some random numbers here from these total incomes from the 1st to the 15th, 16th to the 31st. So just looking at the January section, so if you go across from the 1st to the 15th, we made $5,000. So it's automatically calculating the numbers here. So it's saying $500 goes into the profit bin, that's 10%. $2,000 goes to owner pay. $750 goes to taxes, that's your 15%. And then operating expenses, you get $1,750 for your business to operate on. Now, one point that I'll make here is that I pay myself a salary so that owner's pay is actually the same amount every month. So all I've done is I've gone in and I've modified the sheet to account for the fact that that number is going to be the same each and every month down the owner's pay line, which means that typically if I'm making more, then more of it is going to go into that profit section, which means more of it can ultimately be bonused back to myself at the quarterly distribution. And we're also going to be putting more into our operating expenses so that we have more money to run the actual business. And that's just my personal way of modifying this to work for me so that I can go ahead and just make sure that it's working all fine and dandy with my salary. So again, if you're just joining on, if you jumped in late, if you're watching the replay, again, this link is down at the bottom of your screen. You can get your own copy of this. I'll reiterate, this is a Google Doc. So this is on viewer permissions only. Don't request to modify it because this is the original. I need to make sure that it stays the same for everybody. But you can download a copy of this or make a copy and upload it to your own Google Drive so that you can keep track and adjust it from there. What's everybody think so far? I know this is not a training on gear or a training on live streaming, but what's everybody think on the financial side of this? Would you say this is something that you probably didn't learn, whether you jumped in to the School of Hard Knocks and you joined the entrepreneurial world on your own, or maybe you went to school for video or film? Would you say this is something that you did not learn in school? So let's talk about keeping more of your earnings. And I'll pause for any questions if they come up. I haven't seen anything come through just yet. I think everybody's just kind of paying attention and watching the training here, so I'm going to keep rolling on. Again, if you've got questions, certainly let me know. I am paying attention to these comments. Malcolm, I see you. Thank you for watching. And let's keep moving through. So first, establish profit first on the first of the next month. Plain and simple. This is something that you could watch this training all day. You could sit here and say that this is, something good for your business. You could say that this is something that you want to do, but until you actually implement this, it's not going to do anything for you. So I just want to kind of drive that home that if you don't establish this, and this is something that's so easy to establish, I think that you should get going very quickly with it. Number 2 Adjust percentages and allocations as needed. This is really a 1A, but adjust the percentages that are in there to work for you. And this is something that you may have to try to mess with over time. It's something that you might have to tweak as you go along. So there's nothing wrong with changing the math month to month, right? Like we have these goal numbers of hit 10% profit, hit 35% operating expenses. Maybe your business is different. Maybe you have higher expenses. I don't know where you live. So, maybe your rent for your office or your studio is more expensive. But adjust those numbers as you go along. Just at least start with something. Tyler says, always good to see how other people manage their income and finances. Never taught this in school, really. More or less trial and error. Thanks for sharing. Thanks, Tyler, for tuning in and watching this. Brandon says, I've learned about this, but never had a Google Doc this helpful. I have a sole proprietorship currently, but I can see as an LLC, this would be 100% what I need. Yeah, Brandon, this is something that really anybody can implement. Of course, I will say, my disclaimer here, and I'll bring myself back up on screen. I am here. This is not pre-recorded. I will say my disclaimer. Obviously, I am not a financial expert. I've read a ton of books. I've learned a lot on my own, but I am not a financial consultant. I am not your financial consultant. I am not a tax expert. I am not a CPA. I am not your tax expert or CPA. So, of course, I have to give this disclaimer of talk to the experts that do this for a living each and every day. Don't go off of just this simple Excel sheet or what this guy said in a book. But this is a really good guideline that's working for me and for a lot of other people. And I think the videography world, the video production, the filmmaker world, whatever you title yourself these days, I believe that this is something that our industry certainly needs because we're getting taught how to use the gear. We're getting taught how to color grade. We're not getting taught how to make sure that we make money and that we keep the money and that it doesn't just disappear into a brand new red Komodo 6K that walks through the door. Make sense? All right, next up, establishing retirement accounts. Retirement accounts. So I use SoFi for a personal investment account. If you're using Robinhood, please get off of them. Robinhood is absolutely horrendous. Robinhood is terrible. And they really did quite a few unethical things a little while back, so I recommend against staying with them. But establish retirement accounts. So these accounts are ones that I've established for myself. Again, you'll have to check with your financial person, but if you haven't done this already, or if you haven't opened some of these accounts, I highly recommend looking into it. So one is a Roth IRA. The Roth IRA, you can put in up to $6,000 a year. And this is obviously US-based. It's going to be a little different for our friends across the pond. But this grows tax-free. $6,000 every single year that you can put in. So that's $500 a month if you split it up on just a monthly payment. Or you could save it off for the end of the year, tax-free. And then when you retire, hopefully all this money has grown into a gigantic snowball. And your $6,000 a year for, let's say, the last 30 years. I'm really terrible at math in my head, but I'm going to do it on the computer real quick. 6,000 over 30 years means that you would have put in $180,000. And that's just what you've put in. Assuming that the markets grow over time, maybe you get a return of even just, let's just say that you get a very, very conservative return of 5%, right, on your money. You're going to gain another $9,000 free. At 7%, you're going to gain another $12,600 from doing nothing. And that's not even including the fact that it's compounding over time. That's easily just something where I'm terrible at math and you're going to be earning a lot more than that. So I probably did the numbers wrong on that one. A simple IRA, I have a simple. You can put in, the business can put in $14,000 per year per employee. This is something that's, the numbers do change from year to year. So again, if you're watching this training and it's next year, it might have changed. You got to check your numbers. Again, check with your local financial person. And then third, an investment account. And this is no limit, but it is taxable. And this is where I follow the philosophy called Bogle philosophy. Mr. Bogle created Vanguard, if you've ever heard of Vanguard. And so we'll talk about that for a brief moment here. I'm going to break to check out the comments, and then I'll check in on Mr. Bogle. So let's see. Daniel said, why do most people you see on YouTube not connect their A10 Mini to OBS? Isn't it a lot easier? Yes, let's talk tech for a second. Daniel, thank you for this question. I'm going to cover tech, and then I'm going to get back into this because I don't want to let this comment slip me by. So Daniel says, why do most people you see on YouTube not connect their A10 Mini to OBS? Isn't it a lot easier? So first of all, I'm using an A10 Mini Extreme, not an A10 Mini. The difference between the A10 Mini and the Mini Pros and Extreme lineup is that those have a built-in encoder. So you can encode and send it directly to your final platform. But there's two things here. One, when I'm using OBS, it is a software-based solution, not a hardware-based encoder. And so it's simply not as reliable. I have had it crash on me. I have had problems with it, but I do use OBS when I need to stream over a wireless connection. I will take the USB-C connection from my ATEM into my computer, and I will stream using OBS as the encoder. Two, the reason why I'm not actually using OBS for today's stream, I'm actually using Restream Studio, is because it gives me these. See the graphic down there? I click a button, it comes on screen. I click a button, it goes off screen. That's something that I'm sure with additional plugins and things you could probably do with OBS, and I've seen H2R graphics. Hey, John Barker, if you're watching, you're awesome. You make a lot of great stuff for live streaming. But that's to answer your question. Using OBS is kind of like saying, you know, why would you drive I drive a Nissan Rogue, and I have a little bit of a nicer version. It's got the 360 wraparound cameras. Why would you drive that when you can drive the base model Rogue because it's cheaper? Well, the answer is I have the 360 wraparound cameras, so I make sure when I'm backing into a spot and I need to get my gear out, I'm not going to hit something else, right? It's an added feature. It's a nice thing. It's a little bit more reliable and safer. And that's the difference between using OBS and using a hardware-based encoder, is that it's a little bit safer. It's a little bit more reliable in the long run. I've had a lot of success with OBS, so this isn't to say that I don't use it, but the main reason here is, one, I'm testing Restream because it's allowing me to go live into multiple Facebook groups, my Facebook page and my YouTube channel, but also because it allows me to put these graphics on screen. For me, Eddie says, for me, the hard part is getting more clients. I feel you, Eddie. That's something that I've actually got a great video on the YouTube channel. And really what I've subscribed to has been do good work and treat people well. And that has been my ultimate claim to fame for making the business successful. But I will say that a large majority of our work, now that we're established, has come from the relationships and the people that we've built these connections with over time. So your best resource is going to be the people that you know and the people that you can meet and start to know and connect with. So if I were you, what I would be saying is find 10 people, 10 business owners local to you, and take them out for coffee. Plan it on the calendar right now. Sit down, take 20 minutes, and pick out your business owners that you want to take out for coffee, and just network for them. You're not going in looking for something from them. They can sense when you're desperate. You're just trying to build a genuine connection and meet people in your area. That's my best piece of advice for that right now. Dave says, I love your channel and appreciate all the tips, but giving financial advice can get you in trouble. Please have a disclaimer. Yes. So Dave, I will make sure that there is a disclaimer in the video description, and I have verbally said it on the video as well. And I will make sure to keep those BTS videos coming. Yep. Hey friend, here's another one. Thank you so much for watching. And again, my disclaimer for anyone here, this is information that has come from a book that I have not written, the financial stuff. This is something that's working really well for me. It's working well for a lot of the people that I know that are incorporating it. Again, I am not your financial advisor. I am not your accountant. You do need to consult with your own professionals to determine the best option for you. Eddie says the thing with the built-in encoder is that it is variable bitrate. Depends on the encoder that you're using. But to be honest, I haven't had an issue, and variable bitrate is typically better when you're on an unstable or lower internet connection. Atticus, Let's see what you've got. I found that OBS is better if your internet connection isn't stable. Oh my gosh, it's almost like I just said that. Yes, so I'm glad you agree with me. OBS is better if your internet connection isn't as stable. I've had issues with the Minis encoder locking up if the cache gets over 40%, requiring a hard reset. Yeah, so again, this is why we encourage, and we'll talk a little bit about this too, so we have a training, it's called 6-Figure Live Streamer. We encourage that people get out there to do site surveys prior to going live. So we teach people how to do site surveys so that you can go on site, you can test the internet speeds, you can check your upload speeds, you can figure out where the wired internet connection is, you can talk to the client about the risks of going wireless if that's your only option. And then further down the line, as you explore things, you can also look into bonded cellular devices like the TerraDeck Video Go or the LiveView Solo as well. What they'll do is they'll take up to 4 connections, 2 cellular, 1 Wi-Fi, and 1 hardwired, and they will merge them all together to give you a more reliable connection. Tony, what's going on? Tony said, just joined in. What are we talking about? So I'm actually going to get back to the training in just a minute here because I got sidetracked, but you guys have such good questions on the gear side. So Jose came to the stream late. Love your channel. Appreciate the wealth of information. Thank you so much. So let me get back into the training here because I don't want to keep you guys out on your lunch break for too long. It's almost 1 o'clock here East Coast time, so I don't want to take up too much more of your lunch break hour if that's where you are. I know my buddy messaged me. It was Richard in the UK, 5 p.m. over there, probably almost 6 p.m. So I know you're probably trying to get out of work here soon. I know you guys are working real hard. So let's do this. Let me get back in here. All right. So what I recommend is establishing savings buckets. The company that I use this for is Ally Online Banking for vacations and other goals. And for those of you jumping in late, Jose, I know you jumped in late there. We're going to have this whole thing recorded. You're going to be able to come back to this later on and review some of the things that you might have missed. The next piece is paying down any debt using the snowball method. So higher interest rate loans should be paid first, and then you continue paying that amount into the other debts. So if you have a loan at 8% and you have another loan at 4%, you're going to start paying into just the 8% loan. And let's say you pay that 8% loan. Let's say you're putting $300 a month into paying off that loan. Once you've paid off that 8% loan, you're going to take that same $300 and tack it onto the monthly payment to the lower interest rate loan. And that's what the snowball method is for. The idea is that you take that same amount of money and it's going to make it that much quicker and easier to pay off the loan with the lower interest rate. Get cash back on your purchases. This is a fun one. I love using this. I use Rakuten, and fair warning, that's my affiliate link down at the bottom of the screen. This is not really to make money. I think you get $30, I get $30, but Rakuten is something that I'm using and tying into my credit cards because I'm getting rewards on all the stuff that I'm already buying. So I do a lot of Priceline.com shopping for vacations, for rental cars, for hotels. And when I do that, Rakuten, there's actually a little plugin on Chrome. It pops up and it says, hey, you can get cash back. And I'll typically enable that. So I'm getting money back on things that I was already paying for anyways. Why would you not just make a simple little change like that? Refinancing existing loans. Unfortunately with the economy right now, it's probably not the ideal time to be refinancing. Interest rates are high, but on the off chance that you have a very high interest rate on your loan, definitely consider refinancing it, whether it's a car payment or a home mortgage. The car payment was one that definitely gets a lot of people if you're buying from the dealer. Typically the rate is much higher than the deal you could get from a local credit union or bank account option. And then this one is something that I'm doing and I really, really recommend. It's consider implementing Profit First a second time in your personal account. So you can actually do it again. You can take Profit First and actually apply it a second time personally. So you take that payment that goes to yourself, right? We had a section for you to pay yourself, and then you also had the profit section to pay yourself bonuses each quarter. Then you can take your personal account that money is going into and then split it up another 4 ways. So maybe for you, it's a percentage of it goes into retirements, a percentage of it goes into operating expenses. Essentially, you're paying rent, paying your food, paying for gas, paying for all your weekly and monthly expenses that you'd normally have. And then maybe you've got 2 other accounts. One is savings for a rainy day, and maybe one other one is going into additional funds, whether it's saving up for a child's education or saving up for a vacation for yourself, whatever that is. But the idea is you can take that profit first mentality and go in every single month or even every 2 weeks if you want to and split that money into the different buckets. That way you're not just logging in and seeing a certain number and thinking, oh, I have all this money. It allows you to take advantage of realizing that there's other expenses and things that you need to consider. Got another one. Because of you, I've started using your methods of making more money, which has been making me more money. That is awesome to hear. That's really cool to hear. Thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate that. And Atticus mentioned OBS definitely isn't the perfect solution, but don't want to knock it too much. Those guys that produce it are really helping a lot of people. Oh yeah, not knocking it. I'm just saying that I think that there's kind of the Toyota Corolla version, there's the Lexus version, and then there's kind of the Porsche version, right? And like the Porsche guys, I don't even have that type of gear, right? That's beyond me. I'm going more the Lexus, a little bit nicer route, a little bit more luxury, not totally bottom end here. And that's allowing me to bring a little bit more reliability, a few more features, a few more things to my live streams. That's really all it is. I definitely don't knock OBS at all. I really do like OBS when you've got to stream over Wi-Fi. And now we're also kind of toying around with this idea of using Restream, which is what I have up over here, for Wi-Fi and just using the camera capture ability, because then we can stream it to multiple destinations. Okay, back to the training. I love that you guys are distracting me, but I also don't want to distract the other people that are watching this and trying to gain something from it. So the one strategy that I use to pay myself more, taking the same formula that you use in your business accounts, you can duplicate the Profit First Tracker Excel sheet, change profit to family savings, change owner pay to personal checking, change tax to personal fund, it's great if you're married, and change operating expenses to retirement. Now you can adjust all your allocations again as needed. So personally, I do 15% for family savings, 60% for personal checking, this is shared with my spouse, 10% for a personal fund, and 15% goes into retirement. Now here's what I was mentioning earlier. If you needed to go in and change those numbers, all you need to do is click on the cell that you want to change. So here we're looking at changing the family savings, that 15% segment for January. If you highlight the cell and then you look up at the formula section at the top, you'll see equals B4, which in this case was, it equals the total income from the 1st to the 15th times 0.15. That's 15% of that 3,431 that was brought in from the 1st to the 15th. So that's all you have to do. That's the only thing that you have to do to change out the different Excel sheets to work as a profit first for yourself, so you can do it both in the business and then personally for yourself. So with that said, I want to mention that this is something that I haven't even taught to our course members in Six Figure Live Streamer. This is something that I have been implementing for myself, wanted to make sure it works and makes sense for myself, and then decide whether or not it made sense to teach it all to you. And so, of course, I've reserved this for the live stream, which is going both to the YouTube channel, which if you're not subscribed, you're definitely missing out. I'm putting out weekly videos. Some of it is training on the tech side, how to use the ATEMs, how to use the different ATEM mini devices and the features that come with that, these behind the scenes setups, all of these different trainings. So again, it's Zephan Moses, just on YouTube. You'll find me. It's real easy to find me. Hit the subscribe button. That's how you can keep track of the videos that I'm pushing out weekly. But this training is not something that's included in the course that we have. But for those of you that are jumping in that didn't know that we have this course as an option, I want to talk for just a moment not too long about Six Figure Live Streamer. Six Figure Live Streamer has been out for quite some time now. We actually have over 180 students in this course. And this course was made for videographers, for filmmakers, for anyone that is interested in building a business doing live streaming. Now, for me personally, live streaming is something I've been doing for, I believe it's actually 8 years now. I actually posted in our Facebook group just the other day on my Facebook memories. It popped up. I was doing one of my very first live streams. We converted my dining room into a green screen studio. We took green screen, we taped it up against the back wall. It was a really sad lighting setup. The ceiling fan was lighting our subject. We had a couple extra lights from Home Depot. They were like those LED work lights. And we made it work. And so that was 8 years ago from, I believe it's either yesterday or the day before, 8 years ago that I really started streaming and actually charging clients for it. But the last 2 years, as we all know, have been a whirlwind for many people. And some of you are finding maybe the struggle is that there are so many other video people in your area, it's hard to keep up. Maybe some of you are finding that there's so many video people in your area that are charging less, and so clients are going to them instead. Maybe you're finding that you just have trouble offering something that is competitive and that shows the value. And that's truly where streaming has come in, is not only were we able to take people virtual in a time where everyone needed to be work from home, but now that we're seeing as things have opened up, we're now in an environment that requires hybrid streaming, where events are being made available live streamed because it's allowing the event host to not only get a couple hundred people in the room, but then another couple hundred additional people virtually from home who might not otherwise have bought the plane ticket to go out there, bought the hotel room for 3 or 4 nights, bought all the additional meals that they needed. It's thousands of dollars that you might have to spend on a conference, even when the ticket was maybe $300 or $400. So live streaming is something that is growing rapidly. It is here to stay. It's something that's going to be allowing more and more filmmakers and videographers to bring in a higher income for themselves. And truthfully, it's just something that's downright easier to sell, because when you're doing it and you're good at it, you've got something that can compete with a lot of the other people that are charging less. And it's very easy to justify the value that you're bringing to the table. So let me give you an example real quick. Let's say you are speaking with a conference, an organization that runs an event every single year, and they're used to getting 300 people in the room. But of course, COVID wrecked that, and now they're only able to get 100, 120 people in the room. When you offer them streaming for a few $1,000s a day, so let's say maybe you've got let's say it's a $3,000 a day budget, $6,000 over the course of a 2-day event. You now have the ability to say, hey, client, you can now offer a digital virtual ticket to your attendees where you could have 100 people pay $100 to watch from home. That's $10,000 right there. That not only covers your cost of the $6,000, but another $4,000 in the client's pocket. That's also something where maybe they save it as a digital replay that anyone that was attending in person or anyone virtually, maybe it's an add-on or an upsell, they pay another $97 and they have, lifetime access to these recordings. Well, if you get another 100 people to pay that $97, you've just made another $10,000 stream of income for your client. And clients that are renting out physical spaces, that are paying for those coffee networking breaks, that are paying for the lunches and the meals to be served, they're paying a lot of money, and they're always looking to find ways where they can either make more or spend less. And so if you have something of value that you can give to them that's going to allow them to do that, it is very, very easy for you to sell it to them. So for those of you watching who haven't explored it yet, I want to just encourage you to check out Six Figure Live Streamer. You can head on over to contentcreator.com. You don't even have to type in the whole thing at the end of it. You'll just see Six Figure Live Streamer on contentcreator.com. And that's something where I've got a free training that's available for you to watch. That's something where I just want you to check it out. It's like maybe a 15-minute video. Just watch the free training. I made it available for you there on that website. And now I want to jump into Q&A. We've got about 5 minutes till the end of the lunch period, but if you've got some questions, we're going to pop them up here. I'm going to bring myself back up on screen. And let's get moving. Let's see what we've got. All right, Daniel, good comment here. As much as hardware stuff looks great, I would still need things like a virtual scoreboard. Well, guess what? The YOLO box from YOLO Live has a digital scoreboard feature built in. I know there's some plugins for OBS that you can use for that as well, but the ATEM, if I were doing a digital scoreboard, I would simply use a computer in PowerPoint or in some sort of a graphics program, even Photoshop maybe, where you can just change out the graphics really quick and just type in the number for the score. That's something you could definitely consider, depending on the game. If you got to show a live score clock and things like that, that's where maybe you actually put a camera up and zoom it in on the score clock or on the scoreboard and incorporate that as a picture-in-picture. But just consider that that is something that could be possible with the ATEM. Ariel, how are you? I saw a post of you using the Video Go on your channel. What was the purpose for this hardware and would you recommend? Great question. We had a live stream just this past week at a local university, and we had talked with IT about getting a wired internet connection. Ultimately, we hooked in and ran our speed test, and we were getting about 5 megabit upload, which is extremely, extremely, extremely slow and very unreliable for what was going to be a 2-hour live stream out to both Facebook and YouTube. So the Video Go is a cellular bonding unit that allows us to bond 4 connections. 2 of them can be cellular. So that's a SIM card that we pop in and it uses a cell phone tower. Typically we'll use 2 different networks, so maybe AT&T and Verizon. 1 connection can be wireless, which we could connect to the building's Wi-Fi, but since their internet was so slow, we actually used a 5G hotspot to create a Wi-Fi network. And that was basically our 3rd cellular connection, but it created a Wi-Fi network that the Video Go can connect to. And then the 4th being wired internet, which could have been internet for the building, but obviously that was too slow for us to use. So it created a more reliable signal because it used 3 different cellular connections on different various networks. So where we would have gotten maybe 5 megabits in the building, we actually got something closer to like 15 or 20 megabits using multiple cellular connections. So it creates this kind of not completely foolproof, right? Because like none of this is, it's technology, it could break, but it creates a much more reliable connection because it's splitting up our video feed into multiple directions and saying, okay, if my video feed is 6 megabits per second going out, I can send 2 megabits over AT&T's network. I can send 2 megabits over Verizon's network. I can send 2 more over T-Mobile's network. And then it's only using 2 megabits per connection, and it's creating a much more reliable connection. So that's why we were using that, is because we didn't have a reliable internet option on site. And so that was kind of our backup, which we do charge the client quite a bit more money for because there's a lot of data charges that come with that. And the Teradek is expensive. It's pretty darn expensive. All right, we've got some more things coming through here. Eddie, do these methods work overseas? Good question. These methods work everywhere. Business is still business. The psychology of selling a product does not change because it's built into human nature. Does the hardware work overseas? Absolutely. They sell the Blackmagic equipment all over the place. But from the networking standpoint, from the ability to make connections and build connections, this is what's happening all over the world. It doesn't matter if you're in Japan. It doesn't matter if you're in London. It doesn't matter if you're in the United States, right here just outside of Washington, D.C., where I'm at. Building a network and building relationships is something that works for everyone all over the world. Good question. Atticus, I use Casper. Yep, Casper CG for scoreboards and name overlays. Use an Ultra Studio to display it with key and fill. Yep, great option. Hey, Henry's watching. Henry, how are you? It's good to see you. Yep, I mentioned H2R Graphics earlier. John Barker is the man. I really love his work, and I love how he gets into the nitty-gritty on the coding side of things. Would love to meet him someday. I hope he goes to NAB next year. That's my plan. Hopefully I'll meet him there. Is there a book you recommend for getting started with live streaming? That's a good question. I am not aware of any books at the moment. Certainly the online course is the best option that I'm providing right now. I simply don't think that a book is a good option because when you're working with technical things like this and you need to be able to see workflow and where cables are going and how the hardware operates and what buttons are being pressed, I simply don't think a book is the best way. Yes, Blackmagic provides manuals with each of their devices, but that's only going to cover so much with how the device functions, not how you're actually going to use it and put it into play in the real world. How do you stream to multiple platforms? Yes, good question, Dan. Thanks for asking. How do you stream to multiple platforms at one time, like Facebook Live and YouTube, which is what I'm doing right here? So if you are watching this on Facebook in one of the Facebook groups, this is also streaming live to my YouTube channel, which is where most of the questions are being pulled from. Zephan Moses on YouTube, Zephan Moses, Zephan space Moses. You'll find the channel. Restream is what I have up down here. I'm also kind of splitting this computer off into, I have a teleprompter around the camera here just so I can see it there a little bit as well. So Restream is the platform that I'm using. They have both the ability to send RTMP, so you could use a hardware encoder like the A10 Mini and just send it directly there. Or in this case, I'm using the camera capture feature. It's basically just using the USB cable coming out of the A10 into my computer. My computer sees it as a webcam, and then that's what's allowing me to put these graphics up on screen to show your comments and questions. Yep, Eddie's got it. Restream, yep. Or you can have multiple encoders. Yeah, so good point here. If your internet connection is strong enough, you could certainly use multiple encoders. To be honest, I don't think it matters either way. Yeah, could Restream go down and then obviously you'd have trouble sending a connection anywhere? Yep, so that's something to consider. Is it likely? Not really. But yeah, you could have multiple encoders. We've done this actually in the past where we had a live stream that needed to be dubbed in Spanish. So we put the one main show went into one encoder, and then the second show actually ran through an A10 Mini, and we dubbed the Spanish translation audio into the A10 Mini. And this is something that can happen virtually. You can feed it to Zoom and just take the Zoom feedback of a translator and just feed it in and just turn off the audio of the main show and turn on the audio of the translator and use that second encoder to send it out to the second destination. How does Restream interact with the A10? Good question. So I think I answered this one already. There's two ways. One is you can go live to Restream using the RTMP. So I can use the A10 software control. I can put in a stream key and I can stream out directly. Or two, I can use the USB-C connection, but you will lose the ability to use Restream Studio, which is how I'm putting these graphics up on screen right here. You will lose the ability if you're using RTMP. When you use RTMP, it just sends the feed to straight to Restream, and Restream sends it straight to wherever it was set up to stream it out to. This whole studio feature has a lot of other things where like I can bring people in, I can actually add this I can add this stuff to the sidebar, so like I can add your comments and things, like I can go like this and put comments on the sidebar. So there's a lot of other features and things that are built into Restream. But yeah, that's why I'm using the USB. Is it possible to network bond a switch? I sometimes need to use multiple encoders. I have seen, I will openly admit I don't have a lot of experience with this, but I have seen some switches that are designed to use cell phone SIM cards. So I know that there's something like that out there. But if you're using multiple encoders, you could also potentially just use one encoder and use something like this, like Restream. Okay, let's see what else we've got. I love that you guys are answering questions for others. Thank you for helping all of you guys. Thank you for just being a good community of people. You should do a meetup. I would love to do a meetup. So look, here's the deal. I will do everything I can to meet all of you at NAB next year. So around this time next year, if you plan to meet me in Vegas, how about this? We'll get everybody together. We'll plan a dinner out. We'll meet up. We'll spend an afternoon together, something like that. But yeah, and then also it is kind of on top of mind. We're thinking about doing, we are considering doing a 1 or 2 day conference here locally in the Baltimore, D.C. area. It's been kicked around. Obviously, it's a huge undertaking, but something we're considering. Henry, would love to meet you in person too. We'll love to hang out with you. Be happy to grab some dinner. Thank you for that. Nick, what's going on? What am I using to magically pull your graphic on screen so quickly? I am using Restream. So Restream.io. I'm taking a feed from the webcam output of the ATEM. So it has to be a webcam feed going into Restream Studio. And then this is tying into all the platforms that I'm streaming out to, so both Facebook and YouTube, pulling in those comments, and then I just see them in a little chat window on the side here on my computer, and I can just click show or hide as I want to. Eddie says, so I've been doing streaming for myself and some friends. I'm now shifting this to a business. I barely get one client per month for less than $500. This is my struggling point. So there's a couple things to talk about and to think about here. I'm really glad that you, first of all, thank you for sharing that with me. Some people might be afraid to share things like this, so I want to just kind of honor you for sharing that. So I think there's a couple things. When you try to shift to getting your friends to pay you is very hard, especially if you've been giving them things for free. So I think that it's important to create that clear line between doing work for friends and for fun and doing work for businesses. And this is something that we do also teach in the course, is being able to network and build out this network of people. And we actually have a 90-day marketing plan where it gives you one action item every single day. And it gives you that ability to build this stuff up, but you have to follow it to a T for it to really work. Vegas is a little far from Scotland. Well, Dan, if Grant, the guys from Black Magic, can fly all the way in from Australia, who knows? You might be able to make some magic happen. Restream should pay me for this video. Hey, if Restream's watching, or if anyone else is watching that has a connection at Restream, hook a brother up. Let me know. Happy to chat with them. So we're getting towards the end of our time here. I've got one more comment I'm going to grab here. I know there's a little delay in how this stuff comes in, so I'll give you all just a moment or two. What criteria do you use to identify service as upsell versus a must-have service that you provide to ensure stream goes on without a hiccup, i.e. backup stream and second location to send a stream? So it really comes down to budget. If this is a $3,000 project, I'm simply not going to be doing a backup stream, a second encoder. It's just not something that's going to have itself pay for itself. If this is a $20,000 or $25,000, or even last year I think we had like a $50,000 project. We're also bidding on a $75,000 project right now. We have a call for that this week. Sorry, I can't reveal who. But on projects like that, we're putting in backups. We're bringing the team members out. We're building a whole crew. And that's where we're typically including stuff like that. And it's also something that'll usually come up in our discovery process as we're talking to the client. If they're a higher end client and they, this is a must, this must stay up, we must have a backup, then, that's when we'll talk about that there before going into providing a quote to them. But yeah, typically it's kind of commonly talked about in our initial discussions that we do everything we can, like the site survey, to help prevent this stuff. But if we're on site and the power for the whole building goes out, we can have a backup battery with us, but if their internet router and internet service isn't on a backup battery, then their internet's going to go out too. I mean, there's so many factors at play there. Brian, good question. What insurance do you use for your equipment? Honestly, I love to joke. I basically have my own Jake from State Farm. His name is John, though, so it's another J from State Farm, but his name's John. He's great. He covers my business and handles all my business policies. All right. Well, we are now towards the end of our time here. This has been a fantastic Q&A. Again, if you watched through the whole time, I really appreciate you joining in today, whether it was from the Facebook page or the YouTube page. We're going to do more of these, and of course, we release content weekly on the YouTube channel. So if you're not already subscribing, not to like drive it in and keep announcing it, but hit the subscribe on the YouTube channel. That's really what's going to allow you to see each and every week. It'll pop up on the homepage of YouTube if there's a new video that came out. And then if you hit the little notification bell underneath, then it'll actually notify you. I don't want to bug you that much, so I'm not telling you to do that. But the YouTube channel is really where all the gear comes out, all the videos, all the behind the scenes, all that stuff. And again, if you want to check out Six Figure Live Streamer, simply just head on over to contentcreator.com. And you'll see it right on the main homepage there. You don't have to even type in that ending portion, just contentcreator.com. is where you can check out. There's another free training there. So again, I'm not saying just go look at the course. I'm saying check out that free training first on that website. Do I know any streamers from Toronto, Canada? I was just in Toronto a couple weeks ago. We actually do have a couple of streamers that are in our course that are living in Toronto, Canada. So we do have a couple of people in our inner circle. We have a private Facebook group for the course members, and I believe we have at least one, potentially two people that are located in Toronto. So just something awesome for you to consider. All right, folks. Well, this is it. This has been a wonderful live stream. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope that if you missed the first half of this, you get a chance to go back and check the replay of it. This will be available from here on out, and I just appreciate you taking time out of your day. So enjoy, have some fun, learn a couple things. Eddie, I think you got some work to do. I think it's time to get you out there networking with some people and talking to some more people. I think we've got to set that goal of building 10 unique connections with business owners. And I appreciate you sharing, what you're going through and your struggles. Again, it's all going to come down to you putting in the work and getting out there to meet people. This is not one of those things where you can just go to a website, fill out a profile like Thumbtack or Upwork, and you're just going to get work. This is something for everybody too. I'm not speaking just to you, not trying to single you out. But just understand that this is something that I'm out here every day in the field working toward. I'm out there with the coffee meetings. I have a weekly networking group. I'm out there streaming, getting ready to pack this stuff up. We've got some streams later this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I believe. So, this is something that I myself am doing too in between on the downtime. So thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you, and I will see you very, very soon. See you on the next one.